Welcome back to Triple Single, finally. Apologies for all the delays. We had some technical issues. We recorded probably the best episode we've done so far, and it was so long that we were going to split it into 3 hours because we didn't want to cut any of it. It was great stuff, and then my fucking computer broke, and we don't have the recording, and we are like way behind schedule now. So that's unfortunate, but we had to make this episode because big things have been happening lately. Jamal Cain is really good. We made this whole episode because Jamal Cain had 25 and 10 the other night in the preseason, and
we had to drop an emergency episode.
No, but obviously, Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks. Jrue Holiday gets traded to the Blazers and then is rerouted to the Celtics. My heart is in so much pain right now, but I can't be too upset. But so our first segment, we're gonna each give our opinion. We can start with either of you guys, and I'm gonna go last. We're just gonna run down who we think won trade week, and we're gonna have a minute each. I can start a timer. I don't know which one of you guys wants to go.
Seth, you want to start us off?
You fucking
Too
That's
fast.
crazy.
nah. You gotta go first. I'm trying to be a little edgy with it.
Okay, I got you. Well, yeah, I guess my take isn't that edgy. To be honest, between the Bucks, Blazers, and Celtics, I really feel like all three teams kind of win this trade in different ways. Obviously, the Bucks get a huge acquisition in acquiring Damian Lillard. He's a top 10 to 15 point guard, or top 10 to 15 player in the league, one of the best point guards in the league. Had probably the second best offensive season in the NBA last year, and to this point has shown no signs of slowing down. You get to pair him with another top guy in Giannis Antetokounmpo. It seems like a pairing that on paper would work out really well, given the Bucks having had some offensive deficiencies in the playoffs for some of the last runs that they've had.
Time is up. Your time is up.
Listen, man.
I mean, you can keep going. We just
I'll keep going. The Celtics getting Jrue Holiday as their point guard replacement for Marcus Smart. We talked about in one of our last episodes. The Celtics might struggle to find playmaking and defense at that guard spot. Seems like they got it with Jrue Holiday, who seemingly is an upgrade over Marcus Smart in most ways, at least offensively. And the Blazers get a better deal from the collection of teams than they would have gotten out of the Miami Heat. So I really feel like all three teams are winners on this.
I hate to interject.
We'll talk about that. We can talk about that.
Twitter was so annoying for so long, ever since he requested that trade. We'll get to that.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Seth?
You know what? We can get to that right now, because I think
This is part of your minute.
Yeah, my favorite team in terms of the outcome was the Blazers. I think last year they had Dame and they stunk. So what do you do when you have a superstar and you stink? You get rid of him for stuff. And they got rid of him for stuff. They got 3 unprotected picks, one from Golden State 2024 this year, which I have a feeling is going to be a little better than people think it is. And they got some deep future picks from Milwaukee. They got 2 swap rights and an unprotected first. They got a random reclamation project in Deandre Ayton for Yusuf Nurkic, who is not nearly as good. Robert Williams has potential to go back to his former DPOY candidate self. Malcolm Brogdon is cool. Scoot can start. The rebuild is in full swing. There's no longer any of this unnecessary tension and nonsense in Portland. I think they did great, and they got so much more than they were going to get from Pat Riley and his friends.
I'm glad you acknowledged that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Not even close.
Is it to me now?
Who else would it be?
I just wanted to make sure you were done. I think everyone's figured out by now. I kind of have a flair for the dramatic, and Trailblazers, Quick Trip Glazers, Cattle Grazers. Hey, we don't give a fuck about none of that over here. You know why? It's Dame time, pussies. Milwaukee Bucks, we are here.
Oh my God.
We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. Hey, hey, guess what?
man.
Guess what, too? I got the rollie on a chain around my neck. It's game time, pussy. Hey,
Oh my God.
we ain't trying to hear none of that. We ain't trying to hear none of that. Oh, Spotify stopped my music, bro.
That was a pretty good one.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. This is the best duo in the league. This has potential to be one of the greatest offensive pairings we have ever seen. And you know what? I had this whole bit prepared, or this whole I did some research about the types of sets that Terry Stotts was running for Dame when he was in Portland, and all that. And then my lead assistant coach quit his job this morning, which kind of threw me for a loop. But I could talk about it anyway.
I think it threw all of us for a loop. Honestly, I don't think any of us were coming into today expecting that to happen.
My head coach had someone ask him a question 15 minutes ago, and he said, "I don't know. You got to ask Terry." So, best of luck to Terry. I was actually really excited, especially when I dove more into the numbers and stuff. Like, under Terry Stotts, the Blazers ran more horns than almost any other team in the league, and Dame in sets where horns were run, Dame was one of the most efficient players in them. And last season, the Bucks ran like less than 100 possessions of horns. So I was actually really excited. I hope some of that stays around. But dude, this thing will fucking light.
I think you've made your point with it, though.
I'm not done, man. Fuck. I was hoping there'd be like billows of smoke coming out. Man, okay, this was like $8, so I can do it too. Man. Bucks and 6. That's all I gotta say.
I love it.
We stay winning here. We stay winning.
Beautiful. All right, Bashir, next pod is your bit, okay?
Oh yeah.
Go gather some props.
Hey, good luck.
I'm sure I could put something together.
Is that 2 consecutive episodes where we've put on sunglasses for a joke?
Motherfucker. Hey, I did a little more.
That is cool. That's kind of a streak.
I got a jersey on. I got a watch around my neck. I bought
Why
a
do you have a
single
watch?
man.
Did you have that?
Time.
Did you have the watch ready?
Oh yeah, no, I've had this for a minute.
You think he found a watch around a necklace and was
I
just
don't
like,
know.
this could work? Like,
He said he went to the store today to pick up his props. So.
I bought this.
yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, well, I'm glad you said one of the things you said because I wanted to lead off. In our evaluation of the Dame trade to the Bucks, this is I think you're right. I think this might just be like outright the best duo in the league because I think before this, in terms of like sheer talent, it was probably like what? Durant, Booker, right?
Right.
I think that's pretty fair to say. And their strengths don't complement each other as well. Like, I get they're both kind of like hybrid on-ball, off-ball players. But, I don't know. Booker in particular is kind of like you want to give it to him and let him work. And KD is more of like a, he likes to flow into stuff kind of guy. He's not like a sit there and meticulously work. And then on defense, it's like kind of weird because Booker's not. People could say whatever they want. He is not the best defender, certainly, still. And KD is good, but it's still like, or he was actually quite good this year on defense, but it's still like a weird thing. Whereas Dame, with Giannis, you have small, big. They can run actions together really easily if they so choose. You have Giannis, who is like one of the greatest help defenders in the history of the sport, being able to cover up Damian Lillard, who, I'm sorry, Bucks fans, Connor, is really weak on defense. That is just not his game, and that's okay, because he has Giannis, and he has Brook. And then you have an elite lob thrower / playmaker to a guy who is just so unstoppable rolling towards the rim. Like, it's special. It's really special.
Yeah, and it feels like Twitter has really oversimplified their pairing to imagine a Giannis Dame pick and roll, and the reality is there's a lot more wrinkles to what they can do.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I even will give it to them because I was sat here in my room watching our game, the first game that they played together versus the Lakers, and literally the first possession, that they did run pick and roll with those two, I have never seen Giannis have so much space as a roller. And I remember I wrote down this very first possession. You can go back and watch it. They, at the top of the key or like a little bit towards the left elbow, they run the high pick and roll with those two. Malik Beasley open in the corner. Jay Crowder open on the right wing. Brook Lopez backdoor cut open in the dunker spot. And granted, it's a preseason game, and the Lakers don't have their full personnel, and you can make an argument about like effort and stuff like that. But it's like that's the most simple action that we can run with those two. Like that is the least complicated thing that we can flow into with them. I mentioned horns. There was a horn set that we ran where Giannis literally just slipped wide open to the fucking basket. Like it was insane. Like I'm so excited, and it's gonna make everyone else's like life easier too. Like we haven't seen a healthy Chris Middleton in a while, and he got his knee surgery this offseason, and he hasn't played in preseason yet because they're being really careful about his rehab. But all the interviews, he said it feels perfect now. I even in the playoffs, I had pain after all that rehab and waiting and all this, and he said there's no pain at all now. I'm happy I did it. Feel like I'm ready to go as soon as they want me to. And it's just going to make his life easier. Like some of the looks that you see these guys getting in preseason, that's not going to be Jay Crowder down the stretch. That's going to be Chris Middleton. And I'm very happy. I'm just a very happy person right now. What can I say?
Yeah. I mean, the inverse of all of that is true too. Like Giannis coming downhill has really developed his game, kicking out to guys and being a playmaker. I mean, last season I think we saw him make some passes that in previous years he just wasn't really able to make. And Damian Lillard is going to be the beneficiary of a lot of that. And he's talked about in the past, him as a shooter having a lot more difficulty than someone like Steph, for example, who is in a lot more catch and shoot actions that Dame doesn't really get to be a part of. He has the ball in his hands a lot more. He's going to be coming off the catch in a lot more possessions than he has been, especially in the most recent seasons where CJ's been out of there. Mm-hmm. So I think the potential for that is also really, really good for the Bucks offense. You have to see how innovative they're going to be, especially with a new coach. But I think that's honestly it's possible that that's even better. That they bring in a new coach as well as having in this new group, rather than kind of being stuck in the way that they've been playing already and just swapping in Dame for Jrue wouldn't really work that well, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't want to be a hater, but I don't think just from what we've seen from Bud's offense the past few years, I don't think we would have had the full. And I mean, I don't know, maybe Griffin doesn't, but I think there's a better chance of Griffin coming in and being able to utilize that type of stuff more than Bud suddenly reinventing his offensive philosophies from the last couple of years. And yeah, like you said, Giannis was top 5 in the league last year in threes generated for his team, and I know that for sure. This one's a little rough. I'm pretty sure on the wide open attempts that he generated, we shot less than 35%. Which is not great. Very, very bad, especially relative to the volume at which he was generating them. So I'm just... There's so much to like. We have 2 of the top 5 players year over year at getting to the free throw line. We have 2 of the top 5 guys in total points per game over the last 5 seasons. We have a guy who was second in the league last season, like you said, and yes, second best offensive season in the whole league last season, career year, 32 points per game. Like, neither of them have ever had someone else with this type of gravity on the floor before. It's just so crazy because as fans for so long, do you know how many years I've been looking at Damian Lillard Bucks jersey photoshops on my timeline? Literally, I'm not even joking. A few months ago after we lost, there were Bucks photoshops, and when he requested that trade, there were photoshops of him all over my timeline, and I was like, oh man, that would never happen. But could you imagine? Like,
it's something that you dream about.
I had to talk myself out of it. I was like, nah, bro, you know what? Like, don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the news dropped, and I DM'd you you hadn't woken up yet, but I just like spammed your DMs like in all caps, like, dude, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. Like, dude, you gotta see this. Like, Dame to the Bucks.
I was taking a nap. I was taking a nap while my GM did some real mafia shit and just swooped in out of. Oh my god, bro! Can we talk about how John Horst has moved like the fucking Godfather this offseason? He tells Joe Cronin on day one of these negotiations, if you tell anyone, if this leaks, I will walk. Do you know how fucking player that shit is? Oh my god, bro.
I mean, I think the whole NBA world kind of had that same reaction, like, when it dropped, because everyone's just, you know, kind of waiting for the inevitable, like, Dame to Miami news, and then just out of nowhere, like, Damian Lillard traded to the Milwaukee Bucks for Jrue Holiday and such.
And you know what, man? We said we'd talk about it later. Let's get into that now. Miami Heat fans, I'd like to tell you I'm sorry, but I'm not. And, you know, for so long, I had to read all of you on Twitter saying that they weren't going to get a better package anywhere else, and Tyler Hero's the best they're going to get, and that the Blazers should just pony up. And your biggest offseason acquisition was Josh Richardson. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it appears that Tyler Hero was not the best that they could get, and they in fact got two players who are one at least is clearly better than Tyler Hero, and the other probably is as well. It's a tough seed for.
I said it in a
Miami.
comedic manner. Let's be a little bit more analytical about it.
You mean Ayton is the second one, right?
Yes, Ayton being the guy who's
Yes. No,
better,
I
who's
agree.
also probably better than Tyler Hero.
No, I would.
I have
totally
some
agree.
stuff to say about that later too, but for now, I think that's pretty.
No, I think
pretty
that's fair. I would like to because I remember Bashir, you and I kind of got into it when we were talking about this Bucks team and their projection, how it was going to look on offense. And
We did,
Connor, I'm
yeah.
glad you brought this up too. I was feeling a little more tentative before they had played any preseason games, right? Because I was looking at the shit and I was like, well, Giannis seems to not get used in like as the roller very often. That like in previous years, and like Connor, you can probably attest to this. They don't really use him as the screener that much.
No.
Like, and it seems a little counterintuitive because he's Giannis. If you get what I'm saying, like he's fucking huge and is basically the closest thing physically to Anthony Davis, who you can make a pretty solid argument is the greatest like rolling lob threat ever. And yet in like previous seasons, like his like frequency of plays like that, like where he's getting the ball off the roll as like a percentage of his total looks is like 7%, 8%, and he wasn't inefficient on them, but they just didn't use him that much compared to like Brook or even
And
Bobby.
Yeah.
It's strange, especially when his playmaking, like you said, the last few seasons has just gone
It's
to
so
the
good
fucking
now.
stratosphere.
It's the best it's ever been.
He is one of the best passers in the league.
Well,
and this,
my counter to that was that I think it's a bit more of a function of how the Bucks have created their offense around their guard play than Giannis being less than a willing roller, because even before he got to the Bucks, Jrue Holiday was one of the lowest starting point guards in the league as far as pick and roll ball handler volume, like towards the bottom third, basically every year going back through New Orleans and even like his later years in Philadelphia. The same was true for Eric Bledsoe too before he got bounced and replaced. Eric Bledsoe, except for one season in Phoenix where he kind of went crazy, he was also really low volume as far as pick and roll ball handling. So I think those two being not the greatest maestros in that sense kind of led to the Bucks developing their offense around not a lot of high P&R spam and a lot of motion, and Giannis being the ball handler with Brooks screening, things like that.
Yeah.
So I think given not only the coaching change but also the personnel change, in that Dame is one of the most prolific pick and roll spammers in the entire NBA that we've ever seen. Like,
yeah, the personnel change. The guy who runs it more than Luka.
Yeah, I mean,
and probably better too.
He's been top 3 in pick and roll ball handling volume for like 6 seasons now. Going back,
he's in between Luka and Trey last season.
It's just
for reference. He's a bit of a maestro with it, and like I don't need Giannis to be Anthony Davis, but if you can get if he's just used like twice as often, that's just a huge win.
Yeah,
3 times would be like gravy. Because I mean, Dame like 40% of his possessions where he's like doing something important with the ball are like off of a high screen, and that's a lot of possessions over the course of the game. And Giannis can be the beneficiary of so many of those. And I imagine now that they have a ball handler that's better than Giannis, they can like switch that over. Like I think you're right. A lot of it was out of like necessity. It's like, well, Brook has to be the screener because if Giannis is the screener, then Jrue is not really getting downhill like that. Someone has to like generate threat, and Dame does that. He scores the ball, and if in case you guys didn't know, he does that.
That's his game.
And like, I mean, the preseason, it looked like they were. I mean, they were working on it. Dame did not have some like very Dame-like performances, but clearly they're ironing it out, and I think
it's funny you should say that because a lot of people in our fan base were panicking because he was so shit.
It's fucking Damian Lillard. Oh my god.
What's funny about it is if you look at his preseason stats, they're terrible.
They're never good.
He's a completely different player. Bro, he averaged like 14 points per game in preseason last year. He hasn't averaged over 20 points per game in preseason since I think 16, 17.
Yeah, since before LaMarcus Aldridge left. Like
it's like kind of uncanny, but
I mean it's whatever. Like we know who he is. Those skills are not just gonna go away just because he's in a new environment. And look, I'm excited. It's gonna be great. Like I've read a lot of like overreactions in both directions from Bucks fans that I have the privilege of spending time with. Not you. Well, you know who I'm talking about. Not you.
Yeah. We read through some of that
talking about things like, oh, is Dame not going to be good at the pick and roll? All the way to the other end is like, oh, is he going to be a neutral defender? Look, guys, we know who Damian Lillard is.
You see my eyebrow?
Yeah, neutral. Yeah, make eyebrow go up a little bit more. We know who Dame is.
Ow.
It's a top 15 guy. He'll be fine. He'll do his Dame thing. It'll be great. To move on, how are we feeling? So we talked about the Bucks' perspective for a while, and that's obviously the most important one because now they've gone from like, are we sure this roster is like the favorites to make it out the East? Like, how long are they going to continue contend? For like, this is a fucking team now.
Yeah,
like, this is a squad. So we know that. On the other sides of the deal, how are we feeling about? All right, this was our A+, beautiful bouncing baby boys of the off season, our darlings, our shining morning suns, the Phoenix Suns. Do you see what I did there?
I like that.
Thank you. That was off the top, a bit of a domer, but they really didn't have to be part of this, and now they kind of are in a really big way because Ayton's out, Nurkic is in, Grayson Allen is there. Tumani Kamara.
I learned about who he was when that trade dropped. Hadn't a clue, but shout out to him.
He was their second round pick. He's kind of nice with it.
Don't let Kamara give you too many problems. Hey,
that's what I'm saying.
Get his ass in there, man. That's tough.
No, it's hard, bro. And like, I don't know, dog. I don't like where the Suns went with this. Like, I think straight up in my notes, like the prep for this shit. What did I write? Suns, what the fuck? And then like the actual details.
He did do that.
Because like, look, man, Bashiri alluded to it. Deandre Ayton he's one of the players. He has issues. He's inconsistent. There are problems. We know this. What we also know is that he is better by like a lot than Yusuf Nurkic at basketball. He's a better defender, better finisher. He's just generally smarter on the court. Nurkic is like one of the more tragic big man defenders in the NBA right now. Like, what you're talking like, once you get past like JV and Şengün, you're getting into Nurk territory, baby. And it's like, for a team that you already know who's doing what with the ball, you really need someone who can like anchor it down there. And like I feel like they're gonna feel that like really badly, especially because KD derives like a not insignificant amount of value from being like a help side defender off of someone who's already kind of like been bottled a little bit. Like he worked really well with Claxton last year on that same thing. And Ayton is not Claxton, but he's a lot closer to Claxton than he is to Nurkic. And like I guess Nurkic shoots like a 3 a game and sometimes makes it, but like I don't know, dog. What do you guys think about this?
I mean,
Connor, I'll let you go. I have some stuff to say after, you know, I did some investigation and I've got a few things to say to that actually. So I'll let you go first.
I mean, I definitely raised my brow when it happened. I mean, shout out to the Suns because we're not involved in this without DA getting moved. So they helped us a bunch, so I appreciate them for that. I definitely raised my brow when it happened. And I mean, I agree. Any way you slice it about, you know, DeAndre's issues and stuff, he's still an 18-10 guy. And I am on record as being one of the biggest documented, I don't want to say hater, Yusuf Nurkic non-enjoyers. I think defensively he is completely fried, as far as his mobility goes, ever since his leg injury. I think I see the vision though. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, you know, now that he's gone, we don't have to dance around it anymore. They just did not fuck with DeAndre Ayton over there. Like it is very clear that like almost no one on that team liked him. And so, you know, if you want to look at it that way, addition by subtraction, I think that's valid. But there are some very tangible basketball skills that I think DA didn't have that Nurkic is helping them with. And now that they've played a couple games in preseason, I kind of see the vision with it. Nurkic is a far superior processor and playmaker for his position to DeAndre Ayton. A lot of times, if DA catches the ball in the short roll, he feels a lot more inclined to, you know, get his little ting off, you know, a little mid-range fadeaway or a nice little push shot. He's not typically someone, obviously he'll make the right reads most of the time, but he's not really someone who is catching the ball in the middle of the floor when the ball gets doubled and making a correct decision super quickly. And we've already seen in a couple of games the levels that their offense can go to where, you know, they're getting that high screen roll action, 2 come to the ball, Book gets it over the middle to Nurkic, and then Nurkic is, you know, making the correct read. And it's really... that type of processing is what you need when you have the 3-headed monster that they have. You can't afford to not have those guys get the ball in the right situations, and I think their offense can really go to a really high level now that they have that. And I think they're banking on the fact that they have Frank Vogel, and he can kind of resuscitate Nurkic on the defensive end, and they can schematically kind of figure that out.
You can't resuscitate his leg, man. That's not how that works.
Well, and the thing about him too is that if he's getting played off the floor, Yusuf Nurkic is not this guy who demands like 30 plus minutes a night. If he's not performing well, he's someone who can get tagged out for like Jrue Eubanks, who's, you know, like solid for what he is.
That's so crazy how
as a defender.
Nurkic followed Jrue Eubanks to Phoenix.
No, he's actually
bro finally had the chance. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying in terms of the process, and I do see how that could be like a value add in a team with just like a lot of guys who, you know, can shoot and move and attack. But I think at the same time you're losing like this dynamic element that DA had, where he can be like this over the top threat in those things, like be like a, you know, a strong roller. Like if there's a switch, like he just like rumbles to the rim and you just throw it really high and he will jump up and get that shit. Nurkic is, yeah, he might like wave at it, you know. Like he's not going up there for that. Like,
they did lose a lot of verticality at the at the 5 position.
Yeah, and I feel like that vertical spacing is like kind of important for a team that already somewhat struggles to consistently get quality looks in the paint. And I know DA had his own issues in terms of like shot selection, right? He would settle a ton for mid-rangers, and he's good at them, but it's not shots at the rim. But like even now you're like, I don't know, Nurkic is like an even more severe version of that, where you are really not going to get a ton of like, you know, just like quality finishes over the top from him off of like a lob pass or some
Yeah.
shit like that. And that's to say very little of the like. Yeah, Frank Vogel's great. He's awesome. Loved him in Indiana. Loved him mostly in LA. They had some different feelings about that.
They
towards the
definitely
end.
did, yeah.
And I think I might have some feelings about how that ended too. But in general, like, I mean, he's a good coach. I don't think there's much of anything in this current year that turns Yusuf Nurkic into like a defender that doesn't get attacked in like a really like high intensity playoff environment.
Well,
Sure, you
it's
give
funny.
something
Let's hear it.
It's funny you should say that. And generally speaking, I don't disagree, and especially if you had asked me maybe like a week or two ago, I definitely wouldn't have disagreed. But I did run through some stats just because I was curious. And last season, at least during the regular season, Yusuf Nurkic outperformed DeAndre Ayton in a lot of defensive metrics and a lot more than you would expect. He had better DEPM than DeAndre Ayton, better D LeBron, better D Raptor, better DBPM, which is kind of iffy.
No, that's Mickey. Don't use that one.
That's a bit Mickey, but you know it serves my narrative for the current time being.
Oh, my bad.
A better rim defensive field goal percentage versus expected, and on the rebounding end of it, more box outs per 100, and a higher contested rebound percentage. Which is to say, Nurkic is one of the worst starting centers in the league when it comes to rim deterrence, which is a stat that DeAndre Ayton is actually very good at. He excels in that most years in his career thus far, but
Not the most recent one.
not the most recent one, but better than Yusuf Nurkic by a pretty significant margin.
Yeah.
But I think, at least if you were to look at it from this perspective and from the Suns' perspective, which is that DeAndre Ayton has been kind of an issue for them, at least as far as the personalities go. It's pretty clear at this point, I think, to most people that he and Devin Booker haven't really gotten along or gelled ever. He's kind of had issues taking a backseat to the guards at times, and now with Kevin Durant there, and now with Bradley Beal there, it would be even more of a problem. So I think, given that in the most recent sample that we have, barring the playoffs that Nurkic didn't play in, he actually was superior in a lot of metrics than Ayton, and really metrics that you would expect Ayton to kind of just clear him in. He didn't really, at least for last season. So I think it's kind of a really optimistic way to view the outcome of it, but I think it's possible that they don't really lose as much on that end that you would think, given the kind of players we consider DeAndre Ayton and Nurkic to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of advanced metrics that he's like outperforming him in at the moment, which is to say, obviously Ayton had a down year, but that's like some of those numbers he's like it's kind of a pretty significant gap, in fact.
Well, and this is all without mentioning, they also acquired in that trade Grayson Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Good player.
That's your little
player.
Like, fine. And Keon Johnson, like, who knows?
Bad player.
But it seems like maybe the only person within a 100-mile radius of the city of Milwaukee who really likes Grayson Allen and thinks he's a very good basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much since the moment we got him, I don't know why. I think our league is just very obsessed with player movement. But pretty much since we got him, my fan base has been like obsessed with trading Grayson. And if there was ever someone to trade him for, it would be in the Damian Lillard trade. But Grayson Allen is a very good basketball player.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna gas his defense the way some people have been, but I think he was bad, or he was like a little below average when he came to us. At his absolute worst now, he is average, and there are a lot of nights where he looks like pretty good. And people look at him as just like a 3-point shooter, and he take very few people in this league take more threes than him, and at a better efficiency, but he can really put the ball on the floor too. I always say he's like a 2.5 level scorer, because he doesn't really have like the pull up midi or anything, but he's really crafty getting to the rim. He's strong. He can finish. He's got a nice floater, and I mean he takes a shit ton of threes. And he's looked great for them. So I think when you look at it in totality with everything that they got, I think Nurkic complements what they want a little bit better, even if he is a worse defender. Supposedly, even if he is a worse defender, I think there's a lot of different buttons they can push now with the personnel that they have. And I mean, we sang praises about the people that they got in free agency, and it's like, bro, their rotation is so competitive now. Like, look at it. If you just look at their roster, like they have so many guys who can play night in and night out, and like so many different like lineups. Like Frank Vogel has a lot to work with.
We already thought their bench was pretty good, and now you're just adding in Grayson Allen to the mix. Like it's
right.
Like they have a very competitive team, 1 through like 9 or 10, pretty much now. Like
Yeah.
No, it was interesting. I never understood why Bucks fans didn't like him because
I don't.
He's good. I feel like when you're talking about like the absolute like best shooters in the NBA, you are not getting more than like 15, 20 names in before you get to Grayson Allen. You know,
Right.
and like in a system where Giannis is doing his little 3-generation thing, that's invaluable. And now in a system where Bradley Beal is doing his thing and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant's there, like sure he's not going to get as many, but he's still going to be very open, and he's still going to convert at an elite rate, at high volume. I mean, I think very few players over the past 2 seasons consistently make as many of their threes on like as high of a frequency as Grayson Allen. He's like well over 40% last 2 years, which is like a pretty healthy sample. Like usually you want to look at numbers above like 300 attempts for normalization on 3-point rate. And Grayson Allen has taken more than 300 3-pointers each of the last 2 seasons and cleared 40%. Both. Actually, my bad, guys. Last year, 39.9.
I was gonna say I was pretty sure he didn't break 40. It was a really annoying
39.9. So we should kill him, I think. No, he's incredible at what he does, right? And what he does is shoot the rock. And the thing about guys like that is that, I think there's a chance that. I still don't love Nurkic, but I think there's a chance that Grayson could be like an even more valuable add for this team because they had a lot of good shooters on that team. Good to great. Grayson Allen is a great shooter. He is an excellent shooter. He is like a guy, and like, he'll get into like his little movement actions. He's not Kyle Korver or anything, but you can run him off curls and like, he'll be a little off balance. He can still nail it.
Yeah.
And so he's a guy that like maybe not like a superstar attention, but you have to guard him like pretty tightly even when he doesn't have the ball, right? And that's always been my thing with like strong like shooters is that you have to guard them like stars when they don't have the ball, and that stresses a defense in a way that is just like really unique to that player and adds a level of like impact to the plus minus data that you're not going to see on a lot of other dudes that are like on similar payrolls or viewed similarly across the league. So now they have a guy like that in Grayson Allen. Maybe Damian Lee can continue to be what he was last season. I'm not really sure because that was definitely not what he was in the Warriors.
Yeah,
it was an extremely outlier season as far as like he's a good shooter. 45% was a lot. I think Grayson's most likely going to be the 5th starter a lot of times, or if not the 5th starter, then a guy receiving well over 25 minutes a game, the bench, and it's definitely cool. And you know what? If we get to December and we're getting Yusuf Nurkic straight dots to Grayson Allen in the corner and he's draining, my bad.
And what's crazy about all that is that we said in the West episode, they watched that Nuggets series and they said we will never miss a corner 3 again, and added all of these talented shooters to the roster, and then just added Grayson Allen on top of that. Like,
he was probably the best of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, Grayson Allen, like you said, probably a good look here at the 5th starter. And if it's not him, he's coming off the bench, and you have Okogie, you have Keita Bates-Diop. You have a lot of options to slot in at that wing spot next to Beal and KD and Book. So I mean, like the more options you have, like the better it can be, really. And Vogel has proven that he's willing to kind of like experiment with, you know, slotting different guys in his lineups. Like he isn't, he'll stick with his stars, but you know he's not afraid of, you know, finding that one last guy to kind of fit the puzzle. So you know, I mean, it's a huge ad, and really they've been trying to get something out of Ayton for a while now, and maybe Nurkic isn't the guy you want, but you'd think it would have been worse, honestly. And you get Grayson Allen too, basically almost as like a throwaway for the trade. It's a good look, I think, for the Suns, really.
Mm-hmm.
Should we move on to the Blazers?
Oh yeah, I mean this one's
we can.
a bit more simple of thought process. I think they had to get rid of Dame. They didn't want to give Dame to Miami, clearly.
I believe,
And they got way more than they seemingly would have gotten based on the reports. I mean,
if you remember correctly, I believe that I owe someone an apology. If you remember some of the remarks that I made in the Western Conference offseason episode, I believe that I was on the verge of referring Joe Cronin to some local resources to get him help for his problem. And you know what? Like, honestly, bro, I fucked up. My fault. Like, I really just want to apologize to Joe Cronin because he did his shit, man. Like, he really did his thing here. After months of being... Dude, do you know how good that must have felt when that trade finally went through?
oh, I can only imagine.
After months of seeing people play with his name in the media, I did, in the media, on TV, on social media, like, again, all the Miami Heat fans and, you know, public outlets saying that, like, they should just fold because they're not going to get anything better, and Joe Cronin is fucking everything up for not trading for Tyler Hero. And they traded for a guy who all other 29 teams in the league would want in Jrue Holiday.
Yep.
And a guy who, more importantly, Tyler Hero is a better player than DeAndre Ayton, I think. But they get back Jrue Holiday, who they can flip, and they have DeAndre Ayton, who they can now hold on to, instead of a bunch of rookies who don't really fit the positions that they need, and this guard that they have to reroute to a third team. So now they have a really nice core when you look at it on paper. You know, there's not a ton of overlap anymore in the guys that they want to prioritize, and they flipped Jrue Holiday, and what a return. And I mean, Malcolm Brogdon's on the team for now. He's stated that by the way, I do want to give myself a little pat on the back for the East episode when I said that the relations between Malcolm Brogdon and the Celtics front office might be frayed. But, you know...
That guy's just a professional relationship frayer. And that's just what he does.
Hey, what can I say? I called it. He's on the team for now, and he's said that he actually wants to be there. I've
heard that.
I've heard that one before. I mean, even if he does want to be there, I can't imagine they want him there too much longer, frankly.
I don't know. He's a good player. He could be a nice...
No, he's certainly a good player. I just mean, as far as, like, I think they could flip him and get even more out of this deal than they already have.
I think that would be the responsible thing to do.
As it stands...
They might not even be done.
As it stands right now, their total haul for this Dame package: Robert Williams III, DeAndre Ayton, Malcolm Brogdon, 3 unprotected first rounders, 2 of them in 2029, which is 5 years down the line. Those could be really fucking good picks. And then you have two pick swaps from the Milwaukee Bucks in
28 and 30.
28 and 30. Yeah, so those are pretty far down the line too. Like, who knows what kind of picks those could be. This is a haul, man. Like, for a team that most people weren't expecting to get a ton out of Dame after him asking out and demanding to only go to one team, this is that's a serious package. And Brogdon probably ends up getting flipped, I imagine. If someone wants, I imagine somebody would want him, the Clippers or something. You can get another first rounder or like a decent young guy out of Malcolm Brogdon at this stage. So, I mean, in totality, that's a really big win for for Portland over Tyler Hero and Jaime Jaquez and some, scrap together draft capital.
Yeah. No, it was they did so well, and like I think, yeah, looking at the entire thing all together and comparing it to like Hero, who is just another dude who accentuates their issues. Like, you don't really want Hero's a good player. Do you want him to be part of your long-term core as a it's like, all right, we have this like guard who kind of likes the ball. He's more experienced scorer than he is a passer. He can shoot, but God, don't ever ask him to play defense. Let's put him next to Anthony Simons.
Yeah.
Like, that's the same player twice. And Simons is probably better at it at this point. And then both of those guys are log-jamming Scoot at that point. Like, Brogdon is a guy who will not whine at you about coming off the bench, clearly. Robert Williams is just like a cool, last year he had a lot of issues, right? That was not the Robert Williams we're used to seeing, and he might not become the Robert Williams we're used to seeing again. But wouldn't you like to take that shot?
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
he's
you could take a flyer on him. This is a guy that almost won Depoy when he was like 23 years old.
Actually, I don't think he's 24. I think
he might be
he's
25
young.
now.
He's 20. He just turned 26. But like, again, he's not like old or anything. Like, and there's like still a chance he could get back. You have Ayton, who is like a more talented player than you used to have, and Nurkic, maybe Nurkic will work better for the Suns. He was clearly not working better for the Blazers.
Yeah,
right?
definitely not.
Like, it was just not happening there. And you got all of these picks. You got Tumani Kamara. You don't have Jaime Jaquez. Like, okay, I like Jaime Jaquez, but like, if for the way they were gassing him,
right?
It was, kind of crazy.
I just don't know why they were acting like he's some coveted asset.
Like, he was a fourth year, or third year collegiate player.
I think he's 3 years.
Rose really late in the draft cycle to just like creep up to the 18th pick and get taken above Cam Whitmore, which is really bizarre. He's fine, but him being like the second piece in a Damian Lillard trade is just unacceptable, in my opinion.
It was even pretty consensus amongst league sources that there was a lot of GMs or like front offices leaking info saying that they thought the Heat reached with the Jaime Jaquez pick.
They did.
I think most people think that.
Right. Jaime Jaquez was like projected like a late 20s to like second round kind of guy. Jaquez was a guy who, I usually don't like prospects like this, wherein they rise late in the cycle because they test really well at things that aren't ever present in their game. Like, Jaquez has a 40-inch vertical, which is awesome. You couldn't really tell that by watching him because he kind of shies away at the rim a lot.
He doesn't really get downhill that much either.
Doesn't get downhill. He's like
when he gets there though, he jumps really high. But
no, he does. But like, he'll like shy away from contact and get like elusive with, instead of trying to go like through people, which he could theoretically do with his frame. But like, and then he's like a really good interview or something. Like, he's just a really good kid, which is awesome. You don't take good kids with the 18th pick. You take the best player, and that being the second most coveted asset in a trade for a guy who is like, you can make a very strong argument as just an outright top 10 player in the NBA.
Yeah,
is ridiculous. And so, good on the Blazers. They did great. Let's talk about the Celtics.
Yes.
Connor, if you want to go to like another room for a little bit.
I actually was already considered. It's all good, bro.
All right. You've been dismissed. Thank you.
Taking this.
Can you believe he kept those sunglasses on the entire time?
I was wondering when he was going to take them off.
So, the Celtics. This team is a fucking problem, man.
They're different, bro. They're very different now.
So, we talked at length about how, gosh, Marcus Smart was really cool for them. He was probably like their best guy at like knifing in and making plays and passing. And he was such a good perimeter defender. They don't have that many elite perimeter defender guys. And Porzingis is good, but you've got a lot of advantage retention, not a lot of advantage creation. And Smart was their best source of that. So the Celtics said, hey, why don't we just get
better Marcus Smart? It's honestly...
And he's a lot better Marcus Smart.
It's honestly like kind of... It feels too perfect, really. Like to lose Marcus Smart in one offseason and just get Jrue Holiday like a few months later, it feels like they're cheating at times.
Yeah.
And me and you have talked about a lot, like, you know, the Celtics, when it comes down to it, most playoff runs, they really struggle to press and create advantages and, you know, get guys going downhill to get the wings open. It's been a problem that they've had, and there have been times where Jason Tatum's like their best, you know, passer playmaker, which, you know, he's certainly capable, but it's not his ideal role, and they've never really had, while they've been contending, they've never really had a point guard who can like break down a defense consistently. Smart was good enough, but that's certainly not his game. I mean, he's not a really good pick and roll ball handler. Most passing metrics he's towards the bottom of as far as starting point guards. And I talked earlier about Jrue not really being a great or a high volume pick and roll ball handler. Smart's one of few starting point guards who's even lower volume than Jrue is and converts even less on those possessions. So offensively, you're looking at a guy who across the board is just a huge upgrade. Pick and roll ball handling, getting downhill, attacking the basket. He's a better finisher around the rim than Smart. He's a much better shooter, like so much better at shooting the ball off the catch and off the dribble. It feels like a dream fit, honestly. Like, you lose Smart, who's kind of the heart of the team. He's been there for so long. He does really all the things you would want a guy to do to win games. Plays defense. He's gritty. Goes after every loose ball. Jrue Holiday's he's just the same guy and just better at almost everything. Like, you know, maybe you can make an argument about the defense. I wouldn't make too much of an argument about it. At the very worst, they're at the same level. Most people would probably say that Jrue's superior on that end. It honestly feels like unfair. Like, Jrue Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis. There are very few combinations of players that you can make in this league that would be a better starting five than that.
And that is 5 top 50 players.
And they just have it. Yeah, I mean, people might snob at you for saying Derek White is a top 50 player. He is, pretty comfortably, actually. If you know, go look into the numbers if you don't believe me. He's a top 50 player.
Yeah, you're talking about, this is like, first of all, one of the best defensive backcourts in NBA history immediately.
Yep, absolutely.
Like, Derek White is their 5th starter, who is just an elite shooter, can create advantages, continue advantages, like just this jack of all trades, like the ultimate role player that you would want being your guy who takes the 5th most shots. Like, he is just incredible. And yeah, no, top 50, Derek White, not a doubt in my mind. As far as Jrue, I mean, like, he's not this insane creator, but as far as I went on a little b-ball index kick while you were letting everyone know how good he was. As far as the entire NBA last year, passing creation volume, 7th. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. Way better than anyone.
Much better. Certainly better than Marcus Smart. Like, that's for sure.
Way better. Marcus Smart's not even on this page, dude.
Yeah.
I have to, like, keep looking. Like, and he's not this elite playmaker. You know, he's not Trae Young. He's not Luka Doncic. He's not Damian Lillard. He's not any of those guys. But, like, he is just so much better at the thing that they needed, while also being just really, really good when he's not doing that thing. Like, you cannot, and I mean, you could say all you want about the playoffs, but the thing is, I truly believe that a lot of, like, the Jrue Holiday playoff performance thing is attributed to, like, he's often asked to take on too much in the postseason in terms of offensive responsibility while also playing, like, all-time great defense on the opponent's best player, and, like, that's fucking hard, dude. He doesn't have to be, like, a primary or secondary initiator as much on this team. He doesn't have to take the second most shots.
He's not a second option anymore, bro. This guy's a 4th option. He's a 4th option at this point. He's gonna hit his shots. Like,
he's the 4th option and maybe the best 4th option in the entire NBA. Like,
I think he's pretty cleanly the best 4th option in the NBA. I can't think.
It depends how you feel about, like, Draymond Green or something. Like,
yeah, that's fair. But I mean, he's bordering on like an all-star. I mean, he just came off an all-star season. We can debate about whether or not he deserved it, but, like, this is an all-star caliber point guard. Like,
no, he's incredible. It's so good. The Celtics are, like, the way we talked about the Suns, where we're just like, they're just gonna, like, stat check their way to 55 wins. The Celtics might stat check their way to 60.
Yeah.
This is, like, The only main concern is like their depth is not great. I don't think it's awful. I think
it's better
you
than
know,
than maybe we and most people think it is. Like,
yeah. I mean, like
got some guys
we've
who can
seen it
play.
last year. Listen, dude, we've all seen Sam Hauser give teams buckets like he has no right doing.
Yep.
Like we've seen like Luke Cornett play randomly important minutes and do well in them. We've like Al Horford is still a good player. Peyton Pritchard is.
I think Peyton
Fine.
Pritchard can play. Like,
I think he's fine.
yeah, he
but,
can
like,
play.
All he needs to be is fine with the strength of his team. Like this is crazy, and I think now you're looking at a really interesting situation where before it was like, are the Bucks or the Celtics really still the top of the East? They both still have these problems that they have. These are like the two best teams in basketball now, I think. And
Their problems got all got eliminated pretty quickly in a few few moves.
And so now it's just like, I mean, this leads into our next discussion. Connor, you are welcome to take the anchor role on this one, as I know you love to do, talking about your beloved. Who do we favor in terms of strength? Or you can lead. But, like, who do we favor in terms of Bucks versus Celtics as far as like a roster strength, a 1 seed, a playoff series? Like, what do we think here?
Well, first of all, sorry, I was gone so long. I wanted to make sure I was equipped to talk about this.
Oh my goodness. It's almost 5 o'clock, everyone. Don't make fun of him.
Oh shit, I have work later. Oh my god. Let me lead off. I'm gonna get a little emotional. Jrue Holiday is one of the greatest people this city has ever seen.
You're talking about like he died.
I mean really, there's no punchline to this. I know I'm a very unserious person. I just drank spiced rum at 3:40 in the afternoon to make that bit. There's no punchline to this. Everything I'm saying, I'll take off my glasses so you know I'm serious. Jrue Holiday is one of the greatest people this city has ever seen, and I feel like I owe it to him to talk about him and his wife, because they are just such loving and wonderful people, and the charity and the kindness that they have shown this city since the moment they got there. It may not make sense to a lot of people why I'm talking about this, but living in a small market, you don't see people like this a lot. And so I would trade him for Damian Lillard 100 out of 100 times, but that doesn't mean I'm not sad about it. And so that's my spiel, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I'm very happy that he got sent to a team that he wanted to go to, and a very fucking good team at that. I'm just sad. I'm a little sad about it. But you know, let's get back into the basketball of it. Like, hang on, I gotta switch back.
This was like code switching with the sunglasses.
I'm in podcast mode now. That was me mode. I mean, you guys said a lot of it. You know, just on paper, like you said, their starting lineup is literally all in the top 50. They have pretty inarguably the best top 6 players in all of basketball. And, you know, people talk about their depth a lot as if, you know, we're going to be looking at 5 starter, 5 bench lineups. There's a lot of ways that they can stagger this. That doesn't mean they don't have holes. You know, they're going to be looking at... We said it all before. They're going to be looking at guys like Jordan Walsh and O'Shea Brissett and people of that nature to come in and fill some roles during the regular season. But this team isn't built to be a good regular season team. They're built for playoff readiness and to compete for a championship. And I don't see how you could give yourself a better chance at doing that than with this group of players. Because even my team, I have questions. You know, I love what I've seen. I think everyone kind of raised their brows when that quote came out from Adrian Griffin saying that Malik Beasley was going to be looked at to guard the best player night in and night out. But, you know, honestly, I really like what I've seen from him. But, you know, a matter of whether or not he's going to be, like, that our condition for Malik Beasley being our 5th starter is if he is going to reinvent himself in a system where he has a chance to win a championship. I don't have any of those questions about any of their starters, and that to me is the difference. I think we have the 2 best players. Well, Jason Tatum's better than Dame, but like Giannis is better than JT, and Dame is miles clear of Porzingis or Brown. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I liked what you said about Jrue. I will point out, I think he's in a great situation. Like you said, he was just really overtaxed in the playoffs. If you remember, I came into this season. I said he shouldn't be the point guard anymore. I don't think he, and that's not a knock on him because it's an impossible task. I don't think he has the capability to play the defense that he does in the playoffs, guard the best player every single night, and create for everyone and himself. And that's why we've seen a lot of these types of performances. And I said that if we weren't getting Dame, I wanted us to trade for a starting caliber point guard. I really wanted Tyus Jones and have Jrue be the shooting guard. So yeah, like you said, like he's not really in a position to be, hypothetically, overtaxed like that. And he's not, like you said, a super high rep pick and roll guy. Boston doesn't do a lot of that, or at least he is not going to do a lot of that. If you look at their preseason stats, I think he's averaging something like 3 or 4 pick and rolls as the ball handler a game so far in preseason. So it seems like Joe Mazzulla is kind of aware of that, and they're not asking him to do a lot of that. So, I mean, he's in a perfect situation. We're all huge Derek White guys. That backcourt is fucking disgusting.
It's
like
I don't know how you're gonna score. Like seriously,
no, like if we play them, we don't have a second off.
In the time that we've been alive, we've never seen like a backcourt duo like this. Like it hasn't existed. Like it might have never existed, but at least as long as we've been watching the NBA, like there's never been a duo that's this top level on defense.
Yeah.
Like both of them.
I would push back on that a little bit. I think for like the 35 games they had together, I think the Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso backcourt pairing was this special.
Sure, that's fair.
That's valid.
I would say that it's not quite the same level, but they're in that they're close to that, and it's like you said, a pretty small sample. But I mean,
in general, you don't get like 2 like definitive all defense guys like this, and like they already had that kind of, and now they have that but better.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something, man. Holy smokes! The thing is, I will say, like, I think so. Like outright, I think everyone here would agree, the Celtics are more talented, right?
Top to bottom, yeah, I would say.
They are a more talented basketball team. However, as we've alluded to throughout this show, and as some of you may have heard, in Milwaukee there's a man who is very large and has big muscle and a very beautiful smile, and
I love Brooke Lopez.
I was talking about Robin, but no,
Bro, get him. Okay, slight sidebar. Hey, this guy cannot play for my team anymore, bro. I'm sorry. Oh my god,
he's a vibes guy. But
Nick's legend.
Okay, look,
he has been dreadful. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Giannis is different. We know he's different, but he's like especially different versus Boston. Like they do not have, like, no one in the league really has a Giannis stopper, right? That doesn't really exist. The Celtics really don't have one, is the only thing.
I don't know. If you ask their fans, they would say Al Horford is the best Giannis defender of all time.
Al Horford is old. Okay? I'm gonna leave it at that. It has been 2 years since he was any good at that. And I like Al Horford, but he's old. Jason Tatum is their best Giannis stopper. I don't feel great about that. I don't know if anyone feels great about that. And there is a chance, and a pretty good chance, that I think you could just see what happens in a lot of series, where the best player in the series just does his thing and takes over and abuses the other team and makes it so that there's just a slanted court on every single play. There's just so much tilt and opens up opportunities for his other all-star caliber teammates, of which he has more than one. Like, there are definitely, like, make no mistake, the Celtics are a more talented basketball team. but I don't think that means they win the series. And I don't even know if that means they're better. Like,
No, and I mean, I want to look at the last time we played them. These are all rough off the top of my head, but after we lost to them in the playoffs a few years ago, these are basically fucking lasered into my brain. So it'd be kind of hard for me to forget them. In the series that we played against them,
3-point shootings.
oh, buddy, oh, you know. And this is without Chris Middleton, and with my point guard having pretty severe CTE for the whole series. There was one game in that series where we shot over 35% from 3, and several games in that series where we shot under 25% from 3 without Chris Middleton. And it goes to 7 games, and we lose in a really embarrassing fashion. And obviously they have leveled up.
Bit of a Grant Williams masterclass, that one.
Right. Obviously they have leveled up pretty significantly since then, too. So I'm not going to act like this is the same group that we're playing. But hey, motherfucker, so have we.
Yeah.
If we have that exact roster, even outside of some of the new young guys and some of the other free agents we brought in, if we have that exact roster where George Hill is guarding Jason Tatum in the crunch time, but instead of Jrue Holiday on the floor, it's Dame, we just win. Like, we just win. And basketball is not played on paper, it's played on the floor. And it's not a game of hypotheticals where you can do mental math and say, okay, we almost beat them without Dame, and so now we'll just beat them with him. Because that's not how basketball works or is played. But I like our chances as good as any year. I think it really is just us, though. I don't see any other team. I think it's going to be a lot like how people felt when we played in Brooklyn a few years ago, where when that series was going on, you could kind of feel that whoever came out of that was probably going to win it all.
Yeah.
Because the level that was being played at was just so high, there was no way any other team could match it. I don't want to write off some of the West teams, because, I mean, we did just talk about, like, Phoenix has a fucking incredible roster, and
Nuggets are still the Nuggets.
I am not going to count out a team that just won a championship, especially with Julian Strother.
Yeah, I mean, they added a superstar too. In case you guys forgot what I said about him, they just added a superstar in the draft. So I mean, they're kind of on their way to a ring, I think.
It's just so true.
So I'm not gonna count out any of these other teams, but I gotta see us play in the playoffs, man. And when I watch that series, I will find it very hard to believe that any team could beat whoever comes out of that. I'm just excited, man. I'm just really excited.
Yeah, it's tough. I will say about the 3-point thing, like, it's easy to say for some of you who are not, like, I'm a huge geek, just letting y'all know, if you couldn't tell. So like it's very easy to say, like, if this is not like your thing, like, oh, the Bucks just like yes, the Celtics were a historic playoff defense, and like, that doesn't really have anything to do with the level of 3-point variance we saw in that series. Like, on a game-to-game basis, the defense controls, like, less than 10%. Like statistically, less than 10% of the variance in a team's 3-point shooting. Like, more of it is luck than defense. And then there's also, the offensive component. And the Bucks' offense is a lot better. And they're probably not going to get that unlucky again. And, I mean, even outside of that, like, I'm sure the Celtics fans, you know what? Maybe they won't say this, because I'm sure they have all familiarized themselves very heavily with what 3-point shooting luck looks like over the past few months.
Oh, you're goddamn right they have. We all have, sure, honestly. Anybody that played that team.
We all know exactly what that looks like. The Miami Heat, I believe the stat is, like, on 3-pointers, like, above expected, like, made. Like, they were generating an estimated, like, 13 points in differential that they just weren't expected to.
Ridiculous.
And like, those are things that can just happen, right? And
I'm
so, like,
interested, if you go back and look at that series that we played against them, what the openness rating on a lot of those shots is, because I feel like it has been a little it's not as open as one might think. I feel like it's been a little revisionist. I don't feel like it was as suffocating as history would lead it to believe.
As suffocating in what sense?
I think
like the way the Celtic or the Bucks shot against the Celtics.
Yeah, I think we missed.
No, it wasn't suffocating at all. It was. A lot of it was actually quite open.
Ton of open threes, right? Like,
yeah,
a lot of it was quite open. Like I remember very vividly what your team went like 4 of 29 or something from three in a very important game, the last one, in fact. And that is just not something that happens normally.
You
I
mean
don't
the one
care
when
if you
Grant
are, like,
Williams made more threes than my entire team in one half?
like these are like NBA caliber players. Like you could be hugging someone and they should be expected to shoot better than that from three. It's just like a thing that happens. Sometimes the ball bounces that way. You can ask me about it. I like the Rockets.
I was gonna say it's funny because I've clowned that Rockets team for years for that happening. It was karma. It was just karma.
That's just a thing that happens, right? And like, so even though the Bucks are like they're like a worse or less talented, you know, I shouldn't say worse because you don't know that, but also like no one is unbeatable in the NBA except for Kevin Durant Warriors, but we're not working with that. They were unbeatable. Yeah, it's
one Chris Paul hamstring, man.
Okay, that team, yes, the 2017 team, fuck no.
Yeah, the 17 team, they were that not a chance. Nobody ever.
Hey man, I got like half an hour. Can we cry later?
Oh boy. Yeah, no, it's fine. So what else in that trade? I mean, I don't know. We're in a really interesting spot now. At least let me take a little gander at the notes. So 7-game series. I'm putting you both on the spot and also myself. I hope we've had a lot of time to think about this.
Let me get the cigar back out.
All right.
No, you can keep talking. You can keep talking.
No, I know I can, but I'm giving you your moment.
All right, go ahead, bro. I need to just go ahead. Trust me.
7-game series. Milwaukee Bucks versus Boston Celtics.
Pussy.
There you have it.
Did you get it this time? No, I didn't light.
No, I did a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I saw a little
a
flicker
little bit
of
of
smoke.
smoke came up.
All right, who do we have in terms of who do we favor? Not who's going to win, because that's not a thing you can say with certainty unless you have like a comically oversized cigar in your mouth right now. So Bashiri, who would you favor?
Playoff series, full strength. I get Boston in 6.
Hey, I love that. Doubt us. I love that. It'll feel so much better when we win.
Full strength.
Your fan base has been so funny with this. Y'all been calling yourselves underdogs and shit, bro.
What time is it, pussy?
The Bucks haven't been underdogs since like 2017 at this point. Yeah,
right, at least, yeah.
And yet
Probably
here we
since
are.
like Bud got there.
Yeah.
No, it was so funny. Like, hey, this is like, we can be honest about it. This is like 2 super teams, pretty much. Like, these are, especially the Celtics are like a super team plus.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't call my team a super team. We have very real deficiencias.
I could call your team.
I think
I
think Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Chris Middleton, if he's
And Brook
normal,
Lopez.
and Brook Lopez,
And Brook
I think
Lopez.
that
And
qualifies under our normal
That's
definitions.
funny because I was told that Chris Middleton is washed and not a top 50
If
player
he's-
by some people in this call.
Assuming he's not washed, right? If he is washed, then sure, whatever.
I was told that we need to worry about the Brook Lopez age curve.
I mean, yeah.
yeah, you gotta do.
How are both of those true at the same time?
I think you
He
gotta have
can be an all-star level player now.
How are
unless
they
you have
old
to-
and bad? And also, it's a super team.
I think you could have a super team and have real deficiencies.
This is not a super team.
Oh, here we go.
I think you're coping because you want to play the underdog, bro.
Classic small market fan pretending that they're underdogs.
What?
Nah, you said with your chest, and you were right when you said this, that you have 2 top 10 players in the NBA.
I don't
And
think
you have
that
an
makes us a
all-star.
super team. I think we're using the word super team a little liberally.
You have 2
I
top 10
don't.
players and an all-star level center who.
Do you think the Celtics
maybe
are a
should've won
super team
deep
because
points.
they don't have 2 top 10 players?
No, I think they're just a really fucking good, well-constructed team. I think
you guys are both super teams.
I don't think there is a super team in the league right now. I think the only super team, maybe you could argue, is the Phoenix Suns.
What do the Phoenix Suns have that you don't have? Oh, they have 2 borderline top 10 players and an all-star caliber guy. Does that sound familiar?
Bradley Beal is okay. I'm gonna have to shit on Chris Middleton, I guess, to make my.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking
Bradley
about
Beal
Middleton.
is so better than Chris
Why
Middleton.
are you talking about Chris Middleton? I'm talking about Brook Lopez.
You know ball. I know ball.
Brook Lopez is a better player than Chris Middleton, and he's a lot closer to Bradley Beal's impact. I think they're both like top 40, but not top 25 players in the league.
Kevin
So,
Durant is arguably a top 5 player. Devin
Giannis
Booker
is second.
is pretty comfortably a top 10 player, which is about
Dame's
the
right there
range
with him.
that Dame hovers in. And Bradley Beal is significantly better than either Chris Middleton or Brook Lopez.
I don't know if that's true. I think they're kind of similar. I think they're fairly similar, and then Chris Middleton, for what I've said about him, is still better than any other player on the Suns that isn't those three.
Bro, why don't you just use 2 hands while you're on my dick like this?
What are you? Yeah, you are
You've
bugging right
never
now.
talked about my players like this.
Yes, I
in your
have.
life. You told me Chris Middleton's not top 50.
He talks about Brook Lopez
Yes.
like this for sure.
You told me
That's
Chris
real. That's real. I
Middleton's
love
top
Brook Lopez.
50 this year.
Yeah, no,
I think
that-
based on this last season, Chris Middleton certainly wasn't top 50. I mean,
No, that's-
whether or not he's top 50 going forward remains to be seen. I mean, he's been a top 50 player.
No,
I
I
mean,
think
been a
that's-
top 30 player.
No, that's
times.
valid. That's valid. If you're going based on last season, that's valid. So why is he now in Bradley Beal discussions?
I'm not talking about him and Bradley, but man, you're just framing.
You're talking
it
about
wrong.
Brook?
Yeah, Brook versus.
I think Brook
those players are,
Lopez, who's
kinda similar.
a Depoy caliber player last season, is at least in the same stratosphere as Bradley Beal.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we...
Yeah, so we have your top three is in the same stratosphere as the Suns' top three, and then Chris Middleton is better than any of their.
So
front
where
players.
is Brook Lopez? Like in the high 40s, maybe low 30s?
I have him in like the 30s. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would say
so-
he's in the,
and
he's
then
like
where-
the mid 30s to mid 40s in that range.
And then where's Bradley Beal?
Like
I think
the
Bradley
30s,
Beal's
but like higher than
yeah, I think
Brook
Bradley Beal's
Lopez.
just outside the top 30.
like I think these are pretty comparable cores. Like you have Giannis is like better than KD, but not by a ton, but he's better. Dame and Booker's like mildly better, and it's like kind of similar.
I agree with that.
Beal is like mildly better than Brook Lopez, but again, I think they're in the same caliber of like right below all-star level players / maybe could make an all-star. Like they're around there, and then Middleton is better than any of like the other players on the Suns.
You respect Keita Bates-Diop.
I
don't
said
wanna
Spurs
hear
won.
it.
Well, I
I
said
don't wanna
Spurs
hear
lost
it.
the offseason because they lost him, man. You remember that? Look,
Yeah.
I think, and
Hey, Brook Lopez ain't average no fucking 30 points per game. That's all I'll say. He ain't
oh,
never
so
done
now you're that guy. I see. All right, I
he did it
understand.
twice.
He did do it twice. That's true. He was really cool for that.
The game's about a bucket.
The game is about a fucking bucket.
No,
Yeah, I mean, to close,
I think
we have,
that's the only team I could argue. I don't think there's a real super team right now. I think there's just a lot.
I
of
think you
really
guys are.
I think
constructed
three
kinda
teams. I
similarly.
think 3 teams qualify. Honestly, based on how we've used the word super team in the past to describe teams, I think 3 teams in the league qualify.
That's not my definition. Okay, I think that's where the disparity.
Well, I mean,
that's not
it's
my
the definition that people use colloquially. I mean, I don't think there's a real, hard and fast rule.
When I say super team, I think of like that fucking Nets team. I think of the Warriors team, and I think of like the Heat, like the Heatles, like that.
The Warriors are like a mega team. That's not really.
I
fair.
think if you have 3 guys who are all-star caliber and 2, maybe all 3 being all NBA caliber, I think that qualifies as a super team based on how we've used the term in the past. I think most teams, all 3 of the teams that you described would fall under that definition. I think the 2008 Celtics would kind of qualify given
Yeah,
their
that's
absolutely.
Yeah,
circumstances
I
as well. I think the Bucks, the Suns, and the Boston Celtics all have 3 guys, potentially 4 guys who are all-star caliber and could make all NBA teams. And I think, under that definition, I think they all qualify as super teams. I think the Nuggets are like close, but I mean Jamal Murray's not really like that, and it's a lot of
the Nuggets are like
Jokic
an
being
alternate
played.
construction super team where
Yeah.
they have the best player in the NBA and like Jamal Murray who's really good, and then like
They have the
3 other
perfect players
who
for
are,
that.
like,
yeah.
3 other players who are like a little outside like a top 50 ranking, but all really good.
Yeah.
I just love hearing you guys talk about my team like this, man. This,
Yeah, I mean,
No,
I
you don't. You screamed at me for saying
think-
you were a super
I think
team.
the
You
Bucks,
didn't even
Suns,
give
and
small
Celtics
market, man.
are all super teams, based on
No, they're good.
the historically how we've used the word.
They're very good.
All
Your
right.
team is very good. Be happy about it.
Before we wrap up, we do have one last thing. Let me take off my glasses so you know I'm serious. We do have one last thing that we need to talk about. We kind of glossed over it before. Let's talk about who the Miami Heat traded for this offseason.